We are good to go back here on the Ethan Clerc podcast show live. Damon Weinandt, great to have you back here.
Great to be back. Thank you, Ethan.
And this week is kind of a different episode. It might be somewhat informative for once. We're not going to be talking.
Come on.
I mean, it's always informative, but I mean, I feel like a lot of the time we're talking about ghosts and demons and paranormal stuff and
conspiracies,
Bigfoot. So this week we're actually going to be talking about some real advice. We got a pastor on here. We got Dane Nielsen on here. You know it's going to be a good podcast. And you get Dane Nielsen on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you don't remember, everybody, Dane Nielsen was from the Molly Tibbetts episode, which is the most watched and listened to episode of the podcast. We still get like 50 listens every day on the Molly Tibbetts episode, which came out probably about a year ago.
Yeah.
And people are still checking that out. So
there's still news coming out. Like just 3 days or 2 days ago, they just came out with, they're finally coming out with the DNA stuff from his trunk and everything.
Really?
So,
I didn't hear about that.
In August, so it's still ongoing, yeah.
No wonder it's ongoing.
Yeah. Wait, what did they find in the trunk? I'm actually curious.
The blood in his
Oh, really?
Yeah, her DNA in his trunk.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow, I had no idea. Well, I mean, this is crazy stuff going on every day, and we're going to kind of be talking about, I won't bring up the topic yet because we got to introduce our guest here, but I was just saying that episode got a lot of attention, and we kind of compared Jacob Wetterling, a local case, with Molly Tibbetts, which wasn't that close from here either. So it was, if you haven't watched that episode, definitely go check it out.
It wasn't a fun one to do.
No.
This one will be.
It was a tough one, yeah. This will be a lot more fun. It was a tough one to do.
It needed to be done, though.
Yeah, and we brought up transcripts and stuff. It was tough, but it was one of those episodes that I'm glad we did because it was such an important topic, and I think we gave a lot of good information to people, and hopefully people took that to heart, and they learned something from it, from the whole experience.
Safety.
So yeah, safety for sure. So this week on the podcast we have Steve Dekok, and Steve, you are from Jackson, Minnesota. Is that correct?
I live in Jackson, yes.
Jackson, and if you could kind of just tell people a little bit about you and your daily life and what you kind of do, so people can get a background.
Well, my daily life continues to change. I've been a pastor for 40 years, retired, and now I'm unretired again, doing many different things. I'm the care pastor at the Gathering Church in Bingham Lake.
Yep.
People tell me, I hear you're going to the bar. Often. And I smile and say, yes, I've been there often.
Oh, yeah. For people that don't know, the Gathering Church is in the renovated, what was the name of it? PJ's, yeah, PJ's 2, the lounge, bar and lounge in Bingham Lake, renovated into a church, which is quite the changeover.
It really is.
And I've been down there, very cool. It's awesome to see what they're doing down there. And
yes, it is.
So what are kind of your daily, or your kind of tasks to do down at the church?
Well, my tasks are to care for people's needs. I was just told just a little while ago about a lady whose grandmother passed away. I will call her either later tonight or tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
I do counseling, visit with people, care for them, pray for them.
Yep.
When there's a struggle in people's lives, many times they'll call me, or I will then give direction, and I may even go see your dad.
Oh, yeah.
Or somebody like that.
Yeah.
Who was Rick Clear in the back there running
running all the audio and
today.
everything. What were you doing before you came to the Gathering? Were you always a pastor? Was there something else you did before?
No, I was a pastor.
Oh, your whole life?
Yeah, my whole life.
Wow.
Well, my whole life, starting at age 27.
Yeah.
And been pastor 40 years, so now you know that I am 67.
Wow. Well, that kind of ties in. You got some good advice then for all of us. I mean, especially me, because I'm 21 now, and I'll bring up the topic now of the podcast. It is making the most of your 20s, which most people might say might be the most important decade of defining the rest of your life.
Oh, I believe it is.
You make a lot of the huge decisions, and there's so much we could talk about. But before we do that, I forgot to mention, I kind of mentioned it, Dane Nielsen, though, back on the podcast, and I just didn't really give him
his proper.
No, it was proper. It was good.
I don't know. I kind of brought it up, but and then co-host Damon Weinandt. Thank you very much for coming on,
thanks,
Damon.
Ethan.
So I just got to make sure everyone gets their proper recognition for being here. And
how's Dane qualified to be here?
Dane's position actually is changing now, isn't it, Dane?
It is changing, yeah.
Because were you the athletic director, and now you're going to be
I was athletic director, community education
coordinator.
I'm going to be dropping the community education coordinator. I was hired just a couple weeks ago to be the assistant principal for pre-K through 5th grade.
Wow.
Next year, hoping to keep the AD position. That isn't finalized yet. We're looking at a plan to get it in place. But so assistant principal, activities director.
And that'll be at the new building that they're building when that is finished?
When that is finished, yeah, I'll have 1 year where I'll go back and forth between Wynn Fair and then the middle school.
Oh, gotcha.
Middle school, high school
Yep.
out there. So I'll do that for 1 year, and then, yeah, at the new building right across from the middle school, high school.
Oh, yeah. And I see that's coming along pretty good
It is
there.
coming along. You'll really see some progress, I would guess, probably around the first week of July when the walls will start going up.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Wow. And for people that don't know about that, they're building a new elementary school right by the high school in Windham, and that's just going to be K through
K5.
K5, okay. Wow. So that's big changes coming up for Windham as well.
And Dane does a great job as AD. Dane.
Nice.
Oh,
And
yeah.
forming minds and the way that work with coaches and parents and we did a podcast.
We
on that.
did. I would say the first time Dane was ever on the podcast, we talked about parents getting involved in youth sports.
Yeah. And it was more so about crazy parents.
It was, it
crazy
was,
parents in youth sports.
I'm
It
pretty
was
sure
fun. That was a fun topic.
we pulled up some funny videos of parents yelling and
Yes,
getting
yeah.
involved.
Instill those good morals early so in your 20s.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, for
Go.
sure. Yeah, and that's a
We
good
can go.
transition back into making the most out of your 20s. So I kind of actually got interested in this or whatever. Like I came up with this idea after the message on Sunday. I went to the gathering, and the topic of the message or the sermon was making the most out of your 20s, and there was other things thrown in there as well. And I thought it was really, it impacted me obviously because I'm 21. So it's like, what things can I change now while I'm just getting into it? What things can benefit me? So I thought, what better way than not to get you here and Dane and Damon, because you're all three wise men who can hopefully,
Who brought the Ferguson?
hopefully,
I thought he was going to say wise guys.
three wise guys, there we go. Hopefully can provide me and all of our viewers, because I know we have a lot of younger viewers, high school kids going into college kids who are graduating from college. That's a lot of our viewers. So people are going to want to know what kind of things can they do to really benefit during this decade, one of the most important decades.
And everything
of
we
their
say
life.
is fact. So
Exactly, there you go. So to kind of get into it, one of the first things that when you're 20, it's maybe before that, obviously, when you graduate from high school, college. What are your guys' thoughts on college and going, and it's community college, you got universities, there's so many options, so many things you can do. What are your experiences with it? What do you think is beneficial? I have my own opinions on college. We've talked about that before. What are your thoughts on that whole?
College is good for some.
Yeah.
It is not good for some. Some will fail at college. They will go there, they'll waste 4 years and $100,000 and come out $75,000 in debt, taking the next 30 years to pay that off, and paying all kinds of interest, and consequently they never get to buy their home or their favorite car or their boat that they want to have or anything else.
Yeah.
And partying becomes the kind of the king at college, and instead of really going there for what you're there for.
Yeah.
And if they don't get what they're there for, they're going to literally waste their 20s.
Oh yeah.
And what a huge waste when you think 20s, those are the years that you set aside and you learn some of the very basics of life.
Yep.
I was married in my 20s. I had 4 children by then, by the time I was 30. And as I look at the years of college and then on into pastoring at the age of 27, it was an amazing thing, the things you learn at college. I think the thing that bothers me the most, and I got to watch because I'm a preacher.
Yep.
The thing that bothers me the most is that today, it seems like today's mindset is you party till you're 30 and then you try to figure out what to do.
Yep.
Well, if that's the case, they've wasted an entire decade of their life.
Yep. Where they could be benefiting, doing things, and growing as a human instead of throwing it away, drugs,
Absolutely.
alcohol, stuff like that. Yeah.
Hey, it can be any one of those. It can be alcohol. It can be sex. It can be gaming. It can be, and there's nothing wrong with any one of those in the right place.
Yep. It's the abuse of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. But as you watch, why are the kids coming out of high school and then into college and then into their 20s and they still have no clue what they're going to do?
That's what I'm wondering. Why do so many kids go to college without knowing what they want to do? Is it because they feel like they have to because everyone else is doing it, and if they don't go, they're a failure? Or is it for another reason? I'm just curious because I have so many friends who've dropped out or switched their major tons of times, blown a lot of money. Is there a reason that kids are going to college when they should maybe take a step back and think, what am I really want to do with my life before I go blow
some of it's a matter of money. They have a scholarship.
Yep.
When they get out of high school, if they wait a year, they lose a scholarship.
Oh,
And some, like a lot of people now can take their 2 years at like a general school. It would be a little cheaper because if you don't know the trade that you want to get into right away, you might have to still kind of find yourself and do that. I mean, some people take a gap year and take the year off, but it's up to the individual. I mean, I know a lot of 20-year-olds that know exactly what they want to do and are driven, and
Yep.
I don't want to bunch everyone into one stereotype that
Yep.
when we say they or them, but there are some motivated. It just depends on the individual too.
yeah. Well, it's one of those things where I think a gap year can be a good thing for a lot of people, and I think that not enough kids do it.
Right.
You know, because you can take that year to work, save money, and then you can really figure yourself out. Because when you get out of high school, I mean, in high school, you're with a lot of people, you're developing, you're thinking of all these things you want to
18 is
do.
still pretty young.
It is, yeah. And
It is.
that gap year could maybe give you time to.
If you're serious about your gap year, just like if you're serious about going to college. Like
Exactly.
if you take that gap year off just to drink and party and stuff like that,
Yeah.
And it's a
it's
waste.
doing no good because it probably the stats would show that. I say probably the stats would show that you demotivate and then you just end up not going
Not
to school,
going.
not
Come on, you speak
getting
the
job
truth.
you want.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's the other thing. And it's not that you have to go to college.
No.
There are a lot of careers that
A lot of good trades
don't
out
recommend. Yeah, trade school
trade
is
is actually
huge right now.
like
Yeah,
college, I mean,
yeah, like community colleges and stuff like that. I think a lot of the times people look down on them when there's so many.
See,
I think that's changing big
Yeah.
time. You know, when
You think
talked
it is
about
right now?
earlier with why there was a big push probably 10 to 15 years ago through public education, through society, with parents, just in general, that you know what, the right path is going to a 4-year university and getting your degree. That
Yep.
was the huge push. Now we have such a shortage with the trades.
Yep.
the school's putting nice programs into
And
high school.
that's where the change is now. We're coming back to where, no, you know what, the university, as we've already stated, is not right for everyone.
Yep.
It isn't. And simply maybe just finding the trade that you enjoy.
Yep.
You can go and make a great living. And actually, for some of those that are ready, you can go to a trade school and in 2 years, you're making big time money. You have no debt from paying,
Yep.
it's much
A
cheaper
needed
to do
skill,
that.
a much needed
yeah,
skill.
much
Yep.
needed skills. And you can live a wonderful life and go back to
Right.
buying that car that you want, that
Yep.
boat that you want, that
Yep.
house that you want, probably at 23 or 24 instead of 30,
Right.
or waiting,
Is
Yeah.
the school specializing more in trade stuff? Are they
Yes,
setting up
yeah,
programs
yeah.
where you can
And
take
that's
what interests you?
part of talking earlier, with the new elementary going up. Well,
Yep.
there's also the new CT buildings that'll be going up too.
Oh, what
That's
are
a part
those?
Well, so it's just career tech. So they'll be
Oh,
offering more
gotcha.
pathways for career tech, certain things, whether it's automotive, carpentry, nursing,
that's
things
great.
like that. So people can kind of try them out a little bit earlier to see if they
Yep.
like them.
And-
before too, they get to.
And if you're
a
passionate about
university.
something, you're really going to put your mind to it, and you're
Yep.
going to be motivated to stick with it and do
Yes,
it.
yeah, and that's going to help a lot.
Yep.
Yep.
You're not just a factory
Yep.
pumping out a product.
Yep.
Oh yeah, for
You see,
sure.
in the last 3 months, we've had in the news the parents who said college is so important. At least these mainline colleges, and so we're going to pay $250,000 to $500,000 to get our kids in college, and now they're
yeah.
getting caught.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
why did they do that? Because in their mind, college is king.
Yeah. Well, and I think if we could really tell younger kids, younger generation, show them the importance of the trade skills like plumbing, HVAC. I know how important those are right now. Like Dane said, how needed they are. They're making some of these plumbers, HVAC technicians, stuff like that. You're making way more than people think. You can support.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I've heard crazy numbers
Yeah,
for.
very good.
Yeah.
Very good. And,
And-
it's in high demand right now.
Yeah,
Oh, for
There's
sure.
Such a need for it.
And
Yeah.
not only are you making money, you're helping people because you're doing something that
Yep.
someone else doesn't know how to do.
Exactly.
On an hourly wage, I've just had some plumbing done, and I think it's as much as paying a doctor.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Just
Wow.
We should get a plumber to advertise on here because I need some plumbing done.
If anyone's interested, you can
trade in some work
podcast. Yeah. Yeah.
And going back just a month ago at the school, we had a career day where we had all the businesses around Wyndham come in if they wanted to. And I actually was a moderator for a session where we had elite mechanical,
Oh, really?
the hospital and nursing, and they talked in all kids from all of Wyndham, all the grades, 9 through 12. Mountain Lake came, 9
Oh,
through
wow.
12. the ALC came.
Yep.
So all of those students came to learn a little bit more about it, what
Yep.
they could do, some of their options,
Yep.
just so they know what their options are.
And we're not
So-
going too far off topic, but that's great also, because then you're getting skilled people to stay in these small towns where we want to live.
Yeah.
Where a lot of times, if you're going to school, some of those jobs are only in big cities. So you're still, keeping a population down in these rural areas.
Yep. Well, and that was another thing I had written down in here. Staying in your hometown or moving away is a lot of decisions. It's a big decision that people have to make.
There was some stigma that kids carried with that.
Oh, for
moving
sure,
back.
yeah.
I grew up here and I moved back, and I had a lot of people ask me, why did you move back? And I learned this. You should learn this in your 20s, that you shouldn't have to explain yourself to anybody else, because
Exactly.
you're finding yourself as an individual.
Yeah.
You find yourself too, but I would explain. Well, I wanted to come back. I enjoy the community, the smaller town living, and
Yep.
I'm actually more busy down here than I am in the bigger cities, because taking part in the historical society, I love what I do for work, and you just see people that those are good enough reasons right there. You don't have to go any further.
What do you think there is a stigma for people about staying in the hometown, like they never did anything with their life?
I think it ties into like the college stigma, but I think it's gotten better too, because there's a lot of cool things that go on in smaller towns. So I think it was just that, like, you felt like you had to move away, and maybe you wanted to experience stuff. There's positive things. I'm not saying you shouldn't move away.
Oh, yeah.
But if you want to stay in your small town, sometimes it's good to go away for a while.
Oh, for sure.
And then make that decision to come back instead of just be forced to stay.
Yep.
You can do that.
Yeah. No, I
See,
totally
the
agree.
choices that we make, whether it's staying in a small town or a big town, the choices we make affect every part of our life.
Yep.
It can be the big choices, and it can be the daily, small, seemingly insignificant choices. In fact,
Oh, yeah.
in my life, the seemingly insignificant choices have made more difference than the great big ones.
Yeah.
How would I have ever met my wife except that I went to the college I went to?
Write that
Oh,
down,
yeah.
kids.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Every decision that you make every single day will impact not only you, but everyone around you. We don't realize that
And then
sometimes.
the choices that we make have consequences.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you make a choice, be ready for the consequences that go along with that choice.
Yep. Especially if it's not a good choice, obviously. Then you have
Well,
to.
either way, it goes either way. If you make a bad choice, you end up with bad consequences.
Yep.
Yep.
You make a good choice, you end up with great
We
consequences.
talked about that one a couple back too. We touched on.
I was
that
gonna
one
say,
on the podcast.
yeah.
Go check that one
I
out.
can't. I think we were talking. It was when we were talking with Luke and Adam, and Luke said, "Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, or something like that."
precisely.
Yeah. And I think
That's a good point.
Yeah, it is. And I think a lot of people, a lot of younger generation, could really benefit from talking like like I'm doing right now to the older generation, getting like a mentor, somebody older than them to guide them, lead them, put them on the right path.
I hear quite often kids say, and I'll say kids, but I'm talking younger.
Yeah.
Like a 20's not a kid.
Yeah.
But some maybe act like one. Like you have to make mistakes. Well, you don't necessarily have to make mistakes. Or if they say, well, you have to take risks. Well, yes, that is true. You can take responsible risks. You don't have to take negative risks. You can take responsible risks, and that, what you want to do when you're in business, take business risks that, you don't want to fail miserably if you go bankrupt and things like that. But you don't have to get in trouble to take risks.
Right.
Oh,
There's
for
like
sure.
a difference.
Yeah. There's different levels of risk.
Different level of risks.
Yeah. You don't have to go to jail to learn your.
You do not have to go to jail to learn your lesson. but
Although sometimes
helps.
it does. Some people need to go to jail to learn, to get their life on the right track.
And that's bad choices, bad consequences.
Yeah, as long as you're not killing anybody or anything like that, there's no learning from that. But
I don't want to visit Molly Tidbits this episode again.
Molly Tidbits.
Yeah.
Jeez. Well, and the thing that they were talking about during the message was they brought up that Meg J, who was the lady that gave the TED Talk, and her TED Talk was why 30 is not the new 20, and she was explaining why people wait until they're 30 and then they're like, oh crap, now I really do have to start my life, kind of like you were talking about. And she brought up 15% of the population is in their 20-somethings in the United States. So we have that's a lot of 20-somethings out there, a lot of people that have to make these big decisions. And she said a couple things in here I'll just go over. The first 10 years of a career determine how much money a person will earn in a lifetime. And I'm assuming she's talking about your first job and the skills you develop in college. And so it's very important that as soon as you get out of college, or if you don't go to college, you find a job and develop skills so that when you're 30 years old, you're still not trying to find that job so what would be some advice to people who are looking for that job but just can't seem to find the job? Where can they look? What
do you love to do?
Yeah.
What do you really love to do? Life is not based on how much money I can make. I know millionaires that are as miserable as can be,
Oh, yeah.
and I know people that make $10,000 that are loving life.
Yeah.
and they're grateful, and
Yep.
whereas the millionaires are just snobs and hard to get along with. And, what do you love to do?
I'm glad you stressed that because we were talking all the material things right at the bat, and that shouldn't be your end goal.
Yep.
And this is, don't fret. If you get to 30 and you haven't found it yet, it's not over. I mean,
No.
this isn't a written down destiny plan.
No.
I found what I wanted to do probably when I was like 35, 34. I think it's been now. And I wouldn't say that's a backwards path. It's just the path that I took. But I also look at every job I had before that led up to where I am today.
Yeah.
Which is at Rainbows, working with kids and horses and senior citizens. If
Yep.
you don't know, but that's what also keeps me in town here. So.
Yeah. And you went through a variety of very different jobs.
Very different jobs, but they all took something together that meshed into what I'm doing today. And I sometimes joke when I was sitting in college, I wouldn't have sat there thinking what I'd be doing today, but I can't think of anything else I'd be doing.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was just everything fell in, like you said, little things, being places and deciding to come back. And when I came back, it wasn't for the position I'm in now. I just wanted to come back and worked in the schools for a little bit and chamber for a bit, and it all added up.
Yeah.
So you should have goals, but if it doesn't turn out, don't fret too bad.
Yep. Well, and did you know, Dane, that you were going to be a teacher, like in the schools? Was that something you wanted to do?
Yeah, I did. Probably had my first coaching younger kids when I was about a sophomore in high school.
Oh, wow.
Here in Windham, and I really enjoyed coaching.
Yep.
So then as a junior, there was a little service learning type stuff that we did junior senior year.
Yep.
Had actually Mrs. Hennefeld my senior
Oh,
year
wow,
at a service learning project.
Wow.
And I went into Mr. Wendorf's 6th grade classroom.
Yep.
And I thought, you know what, I want to be a teacher.
Wow.
And so for me, it just worked out that way. I was like, I'm going to Southwest State University, and I'm going to go into teaching. And elementary ed was a good place for a male, because at the time when I was going through, there were not any jobs.
Really?
No, I actually subbed for 2 years right out of college.
Oh, wow.
There were no job openings. Finally, there was one, because I wanted to be in the area.
Yep.
Somewhere close to Windham, just with my family here
Yep.
and my ties here and stuff.
Man, I didn't mention my family. That should be able to be number one when I went to
And and that's when we talk, not to change directions, but going back to how probably out of college and stuff and trying to find a job, I wanted to make money.
Yep.
I wanted to make money. I wanted to buy a house, start a family,
Yep.
have a car, have a truck, have this.
Yeah. Yeah, all the things,
And that's the thing. And I felt that way probably in my early 20s and maybe even into my late 20s. But then all of a sudden, as my 30s came and now into my 40s, those materialistic things that we were talking about earlier, they mean absolutely nothing to me.
Yeah.
They mean absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Is it fun? Yeah, some of those things are fun. Mm-hmm. But the greatest thing in my life is my family. It's my wife. Yeah. It's my kids.
Yep.
It's my sister in town. It's my dad spending time with my father.
Yep.
It's and there's a reason you come back and want to be in Windham, want to be in a small town, want to have the career that I did.
Well, Dane's sister had a lot to do why I came back, because we wanted to build up the community, and we started a little group, and then the rest, the eatery came up. And,
back to it. I mean, so I knew I wanted to teach, and luckily it just led me. But the other thing is, I kept going with my schooling. So then when I got closer to 30 years old, I got my master's in teaching.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And after I got my master's, waited a few more years and went back for another couple of years and got my administrative licensure to be a principal. So, I enjoy this.
Wow.
I like this job.
Yep.
And then 5 years ago, I took over as activities director, community ed coordinator. And
Yep.
that's perfect, because I love the activities and sports or whatever, and just being around kids that enjoy that. And, and having an impact. That's been grateful. So for me, it was something that I knew. I probably wasn't university material. I was not I think I wanted to be a teacher because I hated school.
Really?
I did not like school.
You wanted to make a difference.
And I wanted to make I wanted to have a classroom that was enjoyable, that kids loved to be in. Every kid wanted to be in. So that's why I thought, I wanted to be a teacher. It's not that I didn't enjoy school. It was just I was there just for the friends, for the activities, for things like that.
Yeah.
And, as long as I passed my classes, that was good enough. And now that's totally changed.
Yep.
Oh,
but
for
then
sure.
when I went to get my master's, all of a sudden it's like, well.
So kids never stop learning.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying.
People listening
Dane
never stop learning.
nailed
No matter what your path.
it on the head there by, he said he kept learning here, and I think a lot of people think when they get to a certain age that you cannot really go to college anymore, or like, oh, I missed my college years, whatever. Maybe when you're getting to the late 20s, people think they can't go anymore.
Well, before this podcast, I say I learn something from this podcast every time, and we try to do a little bit of research if we know the topic.
Exactly. Yeah. Sometimes
but then
it's too
afterwards,
short.
you go up and like look up the stuff, and you just want to keep learning. I mean, if you're not setting goals or learning,
Yep.
I mean, you're not really having something to look forward to, and then you might just get depressed, or you might just feel you're not worth it, and you just have to have that stuff to keep building.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's also one of those things where people think that they wasted time, so there's no more time. Well, each day you can start over. Like like in the message they said, you can get on a new path today. Like today can be the day where you get on that new path. You make that decision.
If you're on the wrong path, stop.
Yeah.
Get over it and get on the right path.
Yeah, they make GPS now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people
Recalculating.
That's good.
I think a lot of people just think that it's over. Like they made so many bad decisions, they did the wrong thing for so long that there's no turning around from here. Where you can literally, if you're doing something right now that you're not doing, you're surrounding yourself right now with bad people that shouldn't be in your life, you can literally stop that tomorrow. You can stop it right now.
If that's your case, make a goal to just keep on make the right decisions, and you'll start feeling good about yourself. Then you won't feel like you want to make those bad decisions.
Yeah,
I'm not
exactly.
talking from experience or anything, just like what we, I mean everyone's experience, but like just keep trying being a good person, just be kind, like instill in your brain. Nowadays, that was one of my points I want to talk about, like kids being kind to each other, or 20-year-olds being kind to each other. It's almost like, I don't want to say a lost art, but it's like with the technology that's out, the social skills that are kind of seem to be fading a little bit. I don't want to group everyone together, but just being kind, it would blow your mind if you were kind to people and make friends and actually care about things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not cool to act like, I think a lot of people in their 20s may be like, oh, it's cool because I don't care, so what?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, some people think that, it's cool not to care, but definitely care. Definitely learn things, talk to people, meet people, go out, try new things. Like the 20s is, we're talking about, you have to do all that, you have to make all these wise decisions, but you should also be free and learn and take risks. Like Meg J said, right now is the time. If you have an idea for a startup, if you have an idea for something, go along with it, go through with it, because you don't have a family to feed. You don't, well, some people might, but hopefully not. Some people, can take those risks and do those things because they don't have as much on the plate as when you're 35, 40 years old. You can't do all that stuff. So it's a time it's a time to learn and be adventurous and try new things. And I really hope that people can take some of this to heart and learn from it and, make those wise decisions.
Because if they don't, you'll come to midlife and all of a sudden you're in crisis.
Oh, yeah.
Why do they call it midlife crisis?
Yeah.
Because there's no fulfillment up to that point.
fulfillment, good word.
Yeah, fulfillment.
And if they will work at that in their 20s and build that foundation and get on the right path, then they will go to the point where they're 45, 50, whatever, and everybody's midlife crisis is a little bit different, but not everybody has a midlife crisis.
No.
If our foundation is wrong, if our path is wrong, we're going to get to that point and say, oh, what in the world did I do with my life? And all of a sudden there's a crisis.
Foundation, great word.
Yep.
Great point.
And fulfillment too, about, leading a fulfilling life and what makes that, what leads up to that, And I think one of the things I wrote down in here is your reflection of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so I think surrounding yourself with good people.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Damon, you might want to run.
Just kidding.
I heard that, and I thought it was such a cool thing because that really means that you are able to change yourself by the people that you are with, and you can kind of think to yourself right now, who are the 5 people I hang out with, and that can kind of give you a better idea.
I mean, it's not the 500 people on Facebook you post stuff for? It's the 5 people in real life?
I don't know.
Wow,
You mean
it's
the
amazing.
happy Facebook place?
I mean, but that it gives people the chance to look at themselves and decide, am I hanging out with the wise crowd, or am I surrounding myself with people who are tearing me down and not putting me in the right
Because
direction?
the people you surround yourself with will be the people that will either build you up or tear you down, one or the other. And no wonder there are people who are just going through the ditches of life because they're with people who are just continually knocking them off the road.
And that's all they know, maybe. They got it. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I think it's one of those things where, people sometimes don't know where to go to find quality people. If they're in a place where they hang out with people that are doing so much bad in their life, I think there's so many places you can go, whether it's a church, whether it's like a local community thing, and just meet people who are doing things that are positive and actually worthwhile instead of hanging around with people that are doing things. We don't need to explain what those things are, but you can know if it's the right thing.
You talked about kindness. The people who are kind to one another have an impact on other people's lives.
Yes.
The people who are ornery and mean and they're going to have a small impact at some point, but they will not have the impact of a full life.
Oh yeah.
That you can have.
Yep. Well, and people, and especially the younger generation, it's so important that you make those friends, you make those connections. Because another thing I wrote down, your network is your net worth. The people that you're around and the people that you know are going to benefit you because they can lead up to those connections. Maybe your buddy's uncle has a job hiring if you're looking for something. So it's all about who you know. Now, I'm not going to say not what you know, because that's what we're talking about here is what you know as well. But there's so many important lessons you can learn from other people if the younger generation...
We talked a little bit about money, but time is like your most important investment. So when you invest your time into people and those 5 people or whoever many people it is, I mean, there's not much more you can give that's more valuable than your time.
Oh, yeah.
Like to somebody, especially with how busy we are in the world today. I mean, that's really important.
Yep, and people are always looking at how they can help and, what kind of gift can you give to somebody. Well, like you said, if you just go down and help somebody, like the other day, you helped me out, Damon, so you asked me if I could mow your lawn
That's
for you.
right,
Like up in Mankato, Damon's got a house, and so the grass is getting long, whatever. Damon asked me to
Save
mow the lawn.
me 3 hours of driving up, driving back.
And Damon has helped us out tremendously, but the most recently was with all the arcade machines that we had, and Damon was letting us store them at his house.
It's just a thing.
It's one of those things where you help somebody out, they help you out, and I think there's so much.
Or we tell the kids just smile. Hold the door open for someone. It costs no money.
Yeah, there's so much you can learn and so many things you can change that would benefit people tremendously if they'd take the time to do it.
And you said a smile. It's amazing what a smile will do. Interesting thing about a smile, you'll cause people to light up. The second thing is they'll wonder what you're up to.
That is true, yeah.
That is true.
Yep. And to kind of continue on with other things that 20-year-olds are interested or might have questions about is buying your first house, renting houses, renting apartments. You guys have all done it. I've never done it before. So what is some advice to 20-year-olds who are thinking they're at that time where they need to buy their first house, make that big step? What's some advice?
Whatever the situation is.
Not to jump into it, without
the funding.
Yeah.
If it's an investment, it's great because you're also not paying rent. You can. You're putting money in equity, but ownership on some things is great because you take responsibility in it.
Right.
So if you have a house, it's a responsibility, and that's teaching you responsibility. You can't just buy a house and not make the payments. Also, you are doing housework constantly. There's always projects to do.
Yep.
So it does give you something to do, and you can take pride in that. You can take pride in your work, which is very important. So on that aspect of it, it's good. It's also maybe you want to be able to move around with the job. So you might not buy a house. You might want to rent for a while, and you might save a lot of money because of those things I just mentioned, fixing things up and such. But
look at what you can afford.
Don't
for
go
sure.
above your.
The deeper you go into debt, the more interest, and the more you're going to end up paying. And if you end up with $10,000, for instance, you save $1,000 a year for 10 years. You say, I got 10,000, and then you begin to try and take. Reversing it. If you borrow $1,000 a year for 10 years, and then you owe 10,000, and then you try and pay it back in the next 10 years, it actually is going to take you, I think, 23 years to pay it back.
Really?
Yeah.
Would you say back more in the 50s and 60s or whatever? I was just throwing out years, but houses were more like personal banks because you would buy the house and you'd build up that equity. I mean, to a point that kind of is now too, but I think more so it was the American dream to own a house there, and I think just like the college idea we're switching to is a discussion that you don't have to buy a house for the American dream. I mean, a lot of people do rent.
Well, and how old were you guys when you bought your first house? Like, we could just go around, like, Steve.
I was 24.
24?
22.
22, wow.
26 or 27.
Okay, so each different, all in their 20s.
My house was $35,000, the first one that I bought.
Really?
Yep.
How'd you get that deal? Was it a rundown?
No.
Or was it pretty nice?
No, right here in Wyndham.
Really?
Not bad.
Is it the one you're in now?
No, not the one I'm in now. I moved from that one to the one I'm in now, and I'll put this one up for sale here shortly too.
That's a great
because we're building
decision.
one,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it just because it was what I could afford.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
back in the good old days, my first house was 6,800.
Right.
Wow.
It really was. It was a house that had been rented out and then let go. And the guy came into town and fixed it up. Basically, put false ceiling in, put stuff on the walls, and made it and put a new furnace in.
Really?
And it was worth about 6,800. But it got us going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
for
so-
sure.
That's what that was what I just get going. I know I want to be here. I planning on landing a job.
Yep.
At that time, I was subbing and then working other odd jobs. I was
Yep.
working at a hog farm. I was also subbing
Really?
at school,
Wow.
doing those things. So $35,000 is what I could afford
Yep.
and get by. So I did it, and it paid off. And by the time I turned around and sold it 3-4 years later, I paid $7,000-8,000 to put into
Another
the current
perk of
home that
small
I'm in.
towns,
So,
it's
yeah.
the cost of living on some things is
That's
a little,
big time here.
Oh, for
is
sure.
The cost of living in
For
Weinandt.
sure.
It's-
And really, that's what happened with our house. We sold it about 3 years later for double the price. And
I think you
was
should buy
able
when
to
you're
get a better
21.
house.
21. Yeah. I got one. Yeah, I know you do. Is that the first house you bought, Damon?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it's one of those things where you did fixing up on it, Dane?
Yep,
Did you put
little
work
bit,
into
yep.
it? And then it becomes, like Damon said, an investment where you can sell it, turn around, make some money off of it.
Right.
Same with you as well, Steve.
Yep.
So for people who are looking, I think what I'm getting off of it from you guys is buy what you're ready to, what
Right.
you can afford and what you're ready to put work into, because then you can flip it, turn a profit,
Right.
and then it becomes something that's actually beneficial to you.
Don't
not
buy it
just
as a
house.
status symbol. Buy it for a
Oh,
need
for
or
sure,
for
yeah.
one of those reasons.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think you should buy anything when you're in your 20s as a status symbol
No.
at all. Like
Or
a car.
party house.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think for people right now, like especially my age, I'm renting right now, and we're, juggling the option, maybe it'd be time to get a house, split the mortgage between me, Colin, and Matt. We were talking about that at one point. I don't know if it's going to happen or
Nice
not.
one.
But I think it's one of those things also where we don't want to get too into something if we're not exactly sure where we're all going to be.
Right.
Like you guys talked about moving around and stuff. We're not all 100% sure where we're
Staying
going
at
to be.
just 2 years, you're good. Like, you're still in your 20s.
Yeah. Well, it's just we don't even know where we're going to be next year,
Right.
let alone because none of us are 100% sure where our lives are headed right now. We're just kind of rolling with it, and we're young guys.
Yeah,
so
we should be
we're-
asking you questions, but I
Maybe
didn't
don't
bring
buy
it
a
up.
house.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Everything you're describing, maybe not quite yet.
Okay.
Might
That's
be leaving, not
We might be-
sure.
Yeah.
You might know.
You could zone it to rent,
Yep.
it's a college
My
town.
name is going to be on the number.
Yeah, well, we were kind of leading that that direction, but we were just kind of thinking at one point maybe it'd be a good option to buy a house and put work into it because Matt's a carpenter and stuff, and we could flip it.
Yeah.
You know,
flip it easy. That's
so
TV shows
it's
left and right.
it's one of those things where maybe in the future, I don't think we're ready for it yet, but in the future, Damon, if you still got the house for
No,
sale.
I understand.
And Damon's coming to the point here, right, Damon, where you're gonna sell your first house.
Yeah, I'm gonna be looking to list. I've been fixing just the little things up, and if I had it ready, I'd put a little link on the bottom of the screen here for the podcast.
There we go. Yeah.
Get a hold of me if you're looking for a nice little 1947 house.
There you go. And you touched on it, Steve, but being debt-free,
Yes.
such an important thing.
It is.
And especially when you're young and you don't have the most stable income, and
Right.
and you're not making tons of money, there are a lot of people who are going out being foolish with their money and just thinking they can pay it off later.
Yep.
And like you described how long it takes to pay off loans and credit cards and stuff like that. What are some advice that you would give to the younger generation about spending and blowing money and getting into a ton of debt, especially when we're talking about college, because it's so expensive?
You buy what you can pay for. Basically, that's it. You buy what you can pay for. If you do not do that, you'll go in debt. We had a credit card, our washing machine went out.
Oh,
And so we bought, through the gas company, we bought a washing machine, new one, for I think it was $300.
wow.
And they gave us credit for $300, and we said, yep, we're going to get this paid off. Well, I think it took us 5 years or 6 years to pay off that $300.
Yeah.
Really?
Because you'd go along and then, well, you have a little credit, and now you can add a little bit to it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you feel comfortable putting something on credit,
Oh, yeah.
but all of a sudden you find, oh man, I've paid and paid and paid, and I paid for this washing machine instead of $300, about $600 or $700.
Yeah.
It's a ridiculous amount of people that live paycheck to paycheck that if they had an emergency
Oh my
nowadays would be like in a lot of trouble. And that makes it tough to be happy too if you have that hanging over your head.
And see, that's what the emergency fund is. If you have $1,000 emergency fund, most things then are not an emergency.
Right.
You know that you're going to need new tires in your car.
Yep.
You know that at some point something is going to go bad.
Yep.
You know that your shoes are going to wear out.
Yep.
And if you have the emergency fund, you continue to put money into it.
Yep.
And especially in the 20s, if you had $1,000 emergency fund, generally there's never an emergency then.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Speaking of cars, one thing that I've never bought a brand new car because just in my mind, like once you drive that off the lot, it depreciates by so much.
Oh,
and
for
I look
sure.
at vehicles as an investment too, and I find a lot of nice used cars, trucks that I drive, and I've never had a new car.
Oh, that's a big thing too for people when they're
Status.
Yeah, status too. There's people buying these flashy cars. I have buddies who have bought $27,000.
I got a 2000
$30,000.
F-150 and I love it. It's the
Yeah,
best vehicle I've ever
yeah,
had.
yeah, and you can find like I bought a 2010 Ford Fusion for like $3,000,
Yeah.
and like you can find really good deals on newer cars if you look around
Yeah.
and you buy something,
it's
you know.
incredible what you
yeah,
can buy for a used car.
I think a lot of people think that you have to get this top of the line, and then you got to take out those. You know, you got to make the car payments
Yep.
every month. You got to make the payments every month, and then you slowly realize that all these things are eating.
You're
at
more
you.
around it.
They
A
are.
lot of your
Yeah.
friends buying brand new cars. I mean, like when you get out of high school, is that a goal to buy like that car you have a poster of?
I think a lot of people want to buy like a brand new car so they can show it off or whatever, or they think that that then people will think, oh, they're making a lot of
Yeah.
money if they own that, you know.
Yeah, backwards thinking.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Where that's not really how it is, because then you're like, well, I don't have to pay car payments or whatever, you know.
It's like
I don't
having a
have to
house, nice house, walking in and there's no furniture in it.
Yeah,
Great.
exactly. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
awesome.
When you could tell what people are focused on when you see a nice car and then everything else is kind of falling apart, you kind of realize what really matters to people, you
Right.
know. And if you can nail down these things when you're young, when you're old, it won't be hard at all to keep doing the same thing you've been
Right.
doing.
It's that pattern of life.
Yeah, yeah. And you brought up the emergency fund. Is that something that you think that everyone should be doing? Just putting a small amount of their paycheck every month
Absolutely.
into, or every week,
Absolutely.
every 2 weeks into the
Yeah.
emergency fund?
Every time you get a paycheck, you ought to pay a little bit into your emergency fund, because then when the emergency comes, it's not an emergency.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And retirement too. I think
Yeah, I
a
was
lot
gonna
of
say,
people,
invest.
invest your money into different things. My dad was talking to me about some things to start looking at, because I'm self-employed, so I don't have a company that takes money every month or whatever from me. So I'm going to have to look into investments and opportunities. And I feel like a lot of people in their 20s don't really invest their money because they have so many other things that they think they need to spend
Oh,
it
yeah.
on.
But if you will put $10 a week,
$10 a
or
week.
$10 a week, at your point, your paycheck is not real big.
Nope.
But $10 a week, when your paycheck doubles, you put $20 a week.
Yep.
When your paycheck doubles again, you put $40 a week, and so on. But you put that much money in, by the time you get to be my age, the ripe old age,
Yep.
you won't have to worry about Social Security, whether it's there or whether it isn't.
It won't be. And that's maybe
Probably
what
not.
she was. What was her name that gave that?
Meg J.
Maybe that's maybe what she was talking about too, when she said a lot of the decisions you make in your 20s will depend on how much money you make too, not only with your job but
Right.
also your investments. Because you'll see the charts. You go look up the charts, and if you start investing early, you're going to make a lot more money than if you do when you start later in life. Obviously,
yeah.
for obvious reasons. But.
Yeah, and that leads to another big thing is savings accounts, finances. Also, building credit right now is a huge thing, because
Important.
I don't even know what my credit score is or anything. I don't even know how you build like a good credit score. What are the things that lead to that? Because I think that's a question. It might seem like a dumb question, but a lot of people my age are wondering, how do you build a good credit score so you can get loans if you need one for something? Because there are big things sometimes that jump out at you that you actually
Well, you
need.
don't want to go in debt on credit card, but I'm assuming
No.
you have a credit card, or
I have a debit card. I don't have a credit card, yeah.
I mean, you could get a credit card and use it as like a debit card and just make sure you pay it off every month. That'll build a little bit of credit by having a card and showing you're in good faith paying.
Is that really the only way to build a credit score?
Oh boy, we should have a banking advisor on here.
Well, it's that as you look at the credit bureau looks at your income, it looks at your debts, it looks at your credit cards, it looks at what your history is, and each part of that in their payment history, they will look at all of those and give you a credit score.
Don't miss payments on utilities, things
Yeah.
like that.
Oh,
Right.
they check everything like
They
that.
check that
Yeah.
stuff too.
Okay.
It's all
Because
payments. paying things on time, being on time with
Being
things,
on
and
time,
getting it taken care of. That's going to help build it quickly.
Which is a great one. Always be on time.
Always
time
be
is
on
important.
time. Yeah, time.
If you're always late when you're young, you're just wasting someone else's time, and you think your time's more important.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just more the things that we all. I mean, when you're younger, and they don't really teach you that kind of stuff in school. Like I don't ever remember learning about credit scores in school.
No, probably not.
Or like taking out loans or buying a house. There's so many things that I feel like would be awesome if we had some kind of class in school. I don't know. Maybe there is now, Dane, or something where they teach people these basic things in life that are going to jump out at you. I don't even know in home ec if we ever learned anything like that. I feel like it's more, even like personal finance, I don't really remember talking
Another
about.
part of personal finance is balance your checkbook every month. Most, and I think it's true, most young people have no idea of how to balance their checkbook. The bank statement comes, or they will go online and find out how much I have in the account.
Yep.
Little do they realize that their next automatic payment of $300 is going to come out 2 days before, and they're going to end up with an overdraft. An overdraft is a huge waste of money.
Oh, for sure.
Like getting a ticket, huge waste of money.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
That's the credit score.
It does.
Well, and that is one thing I do believe we learned in personal finance. I do remember balancing a checkbook is one of the things for sure that they actually teach you. So that is good.
Did you learn how to score in bowling?
I didn't.
No?
I probably did actually.
Sorry. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, we did. We did in Simmons tried to teach all of us. Yeah, I'm still figuring it out there. I'm still learning scoring and bowling. That's a big important life lesson on here. Well, we're talking about important life lessons. The next big one would be having a family, finding the right one, and that's a big thing that happens. It doesn't have to happen in your 30s. I think on here, it was half of Americans find their partner by the age of 30.
Then do half of them get divorced then?
Oh, well, the divorce rate's like 51% right now, so
it's higher than 15.
So that comes to the next decision on this isn't really something that has like a direct answer, but when is the right time to start a family, have kids, move on? This isn't something that can be answered right away, but maybe there's opinions that would benefit people. Everyone's got their
It
own.
would just be opinions because there isn't a right or wrong answer.
Yeah, well, that's what the whole show, the whole podcast is opinions. So what do you guys think about having a family super young?
Start at 16.
16. There we go. We're gonna cut that one section out.
All individual, right? Because we're all going to be in different. Because I've never gotten married, but I don't disagree with marriage, and I don't think there's a set age because it just depends on the two people who meet when they meet, that little chance encounter, perhaps.
Oh, for sure.
Or what it is, but you have to know that people change over the years. So if you're going to meet someone really young. I think there's studies, some people change personalities or a little, every 5 years, things like that, and it all depends on the individual too. So you better work on that marriage too and not just bail on it. I think maybe that's why.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, if you don't work on it, you will bail on it.
Yeah.
Why do you think the divorce rate's so high? Why are so many Americans?
I talked to a guy a while back, and he said, I have been married to 4 different women.
Oh my gosh.
They're all the same name. They're all the same woman. She has changed drastically 4 different times.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah. And as you look at that, we all change.
Yep.
I'm different than I was when I was 20.
Oh, for sure.
I'm a lot different than I was. I'm different when our children came. I'm different when the children left.
Yep.
I'm different now that I have grandchildren. And I'm different in just the way that I think. I'm different in how much energy I have, or lack of energy.
Yeah.
But part of marriage is not only finding the right person, but being the right person.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And if you're not going to be the right person, don't get married.
You're right.
Yeah.
Don't have it be a status thing because you think you have, like going to college. Don't think you have to get married.
Yeah.
It's got to be the right situation.
Well, maybe that's why so many people are getting a divorce. They're rushing into a marriage that isn't actually going to ever work out.
You probably hit it on the head for all of these topics. And what I would say is rushing into things.
Yeah.
Everybody wants
Oh
it
yeah.
now.
Yep.
Everybody
Instant
wants it right.
gratification.
Yeah. 100%.
And that's the big thing. Whether if it is the marriage, if it is the money, if it is buying that fancy car.
Yep.
I'm just, to be honest, finally getting to the point in my life now with the schooling that I've been to and things. You talk about finances, you talk about marriage, you talk about having children, and just that finally things are starting to flow a little bit and get a little bit
I want to throw out the word.
Because I did live paycheck to paycheck as a teacher for a long time.
I have too. You
know what I mean?
I'm not perfect with any of the stuff we're talking about.
And I wanted that instance, but now all of a sudden it's like, you just stated it too. Your values change, and just you change as a person, and things change.
I want to
and
throw
sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse.
Oh, for sure.
But I feel like with a lot of this stuff, it's all we want it now.
Instant gratification.
You see, here in America, we have everything instantly.
Yep.
We have instant meals.
Yep.
You can go to the grocery store, or you can go to McDonald's.
Yep.
Go to McDonald's.
There we go.
You can go get a car.
Yep.
Instantly.
Right away. Yep.
You can
Good
go
credit, bad credit.
Yeah.
You can open that credit card at the dealership.
Yep.
Right.
But I want to throw out a word that Dane said on top of that, and that was great. Confidence. Like as you got to find in your 20s, you don't have to be dating someone. If you're dating someone and it's a healthy relationship, that's a whole nother thing, a whole nother topic.
Yep.
Don't get in a controlling relationship.
Oh, for sure.
It should be a partnership, and if you're going out and your partner is getting mad because you're going out, that's he or she should be asking, did you have fun? Things like that.
Oh yeah.
But where's I going with that? Oh, the partnership and the
confidence. Yep. Confidence.
Find out who you are, your individual. Like
Yep.
if it's okay to be single for a while, because that's when you find yourself too.
Oh, for sure.
No matter what age.
Yep.
Like you have to be happy with yourself and want to be friends with yourself before you can go and be friends with someone else or find someone else.
Oh, for sure. And I think the 20s might be the best time to build confidence and, like you said, figure out who you are.
On all these things we've been talking about.
Exactly. Get good with money.
It comes back to the choices in the 20s.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why it's such an important thing to talk about because, like we said,
It's based on my main point.
well, I think you hit it though. Confidence is key, and that can go so far in anything we're talking about. Like you said, money, relationships.
What was the Saturday Night Live skit? I'm good enough. I'm smart enough.
Well, darn it, people really like me.
I'll put that in here right now too for people watching.
Because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
And there was on Inc. magazine, I don't know if you
have no idea.
Inc. magazine did 20 brutal truths all 20-somethings need to hear, and I think there was a lot of good ones on here. It's a list, so I can kind of run through them.
See if we hit 'em.
You guys could kind of tell me what you think. Number one, nobody cares. So no one cares about your latte. No one cares about your dumb Instagram post. No one cares about your little things happening in your life because everyone's going on with their crazy own busy lives. So I think a lot of the times these 20-something years old, I'm talking about myself as
Is
well.
this what people are posting? Like what?
It's just, it's about the constant need to post
attention.
On social media,
Right.
constant need for attention, constant need to let everyone know what you're doing. No one cares.
Yeah.
Like, focus on becoming better, and it's not all about online social media, stuff like that. And I think even myself, you get held up in that sometimes. Maybe you guys don't have the same thing.
Yeah, I try to stay off it as much as possible, and you'll find that you're a little bit happier, and because it's so easy to go on there and, do funny stuff like that, but be negative too.
Oh yeah, and you're always comparing yourself to someone else with social media.
That's true.
You're always,
seeing the stuff on Facebook that isn't good.
Highly edited, what they want you to see. It's not actually the reality of someone's life. So no one cares. That was number one. Number two, if you're on time, you're late. Always be early. Show up 10 minutes early for everything. That's a big one, especially for job interviews and stuff like that. Get there early. Number three, you have nothing to prove. These are just off of the website. These are not things I wrote down, so I'm not exactly sure what they meant for every single one of them.
I'd say that, be yourself, make your own decisions, probably, hopefully.
Yeah, you don't have to prove yourself to anybody or something. Number four, reading is extremely important, and they talked about that in the message. About
and it is.
How the average American reads like 1 page a day. Or did we talk about that with Sherman? I can't remember.
We did talk a little bit, Sherman, but that's back to the knowledge. Read something to keep your mind going.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
And I don't think that enough, even myself, don't read very much at all, and I want to get into it more.
Not even movie reviews?
Movie reviews, there we go. But I don't think that enough, I don't know why it's happening. Maybe it's because of social media, online, YouTube. People have found other ways to be entertained, but I feel like if you could just pick up a book, one book a month or something.
Yeah, and it's relaxing too. I was just talking about this today, how kids, parents, you're like a full-time scheduler during the summertime, but kids don't know how to use downtime anymore. So like that's almost just as important to teach kids how to use their downtime.
Yeah. True.
Give them a book
Yeah.
because their anxiety's out of the roof because if they're not doing something, they're starting to feel like they have to be doing something.
And
Yeah.
if you don't fill your mind with the right things,
Yeah, that too.
it becomes a garbage
book.
pit.
Pick up the right
for
book.
sure, yeah.
You probably have one to suggest.
I
Yeah,
do.
so-
I just happen to have it right here.
I was going to ask if you guys had any good books to recommend to 20-something-year-olds, or if you've read any good books recently.
Well, actually, you talked about the good book. The book of Proverbs is a great book, and they mentioned that in the message.
They did, yep.
It has 31 chapters.
31 days.
You have 31 days in the month. And so you read, today is the 4th. Today is the 5th.
It'll come out on Thursday, so
Yeah.
the 7th or
Today is
something.
the 4th, and so read Proverbs 4 today. On the 10th, read Proverbs 10. And if you will do that, the book of Proverbs is such a practical book for everyday life. Whether you believe in God, whether you don't believe in God, that is a practical book you're foolish not to read it.
Yep.
It is so practical. It'll keep you out of trouble. It'll keep your mind going. It'll keep you out of trouble financially. It'll keep you out of trouble friend-wise. It'll keep you out of trouble sexually. It'll keep you out of trouble in many different ways. It'll keep you honest.
Well, 31
Good.
pages is
Good.
not hard for many people,
Yeah.
or 31 chapters
Put
is
that
not
out there
hard for
so
people.
everyone could read it.
Yeah.
I'd recommend, this is off the other direction, but for you, On the Road with Jack Kerouac. It's a
okay.
fun book about road trips and back
yeah.
in the 50s and 60s.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know how old he was, but
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Dane, you have any interesting reads that people?
I just finished up. Joshua Medcalf is the author. It's called Chop Wood, Carry Water. It's more so about how it's process, and you really have to enjoy the process.
Nice.
It isn't back to the instant gratification that I talked about earlier. That's
Yeah.
where some of that
we are
came from.
nailing it tonight.
Yeah.
I actually had the opportunity to speak at graduation.
Oh.
And I mentioned that book at graduation too, about the process
Yep.
to the graduating seniors. And
Like-
it's not going to happen as quickly as you want. And life is hard.
Yep. It's
Like
not
grinding
life
and
is hard,
constantly
yeah.
working towards your
Yep,
goals.
yep.
and-
Journey
So
and
you
not
gotta
the destination kind of stuff, Dane? Like that kind of thing?
Absolutely,
Wow.
absolutely. So
What was the
that's a
name
good one.
again?
It's Chop Wood, Carry Water.
Chop wood, carry water.
Yep.
I'm gonna check that one out.
For everyone at home, wood is what we build things out of, and water is the healthy drink that we drink.
For everyone listening. And then number 5, I brought this up before, your reflection of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I think we touched on that quite a bit about being around people who benefit you and are good role models. And, I think we touched on that.
Unquestionably, that's huge.
Yeah.
It is. Absolutely huge.
Yeah, and I don't think it's. I don't
Good
think.
company.
Yeah, and I don't think people think about that enough. Who you're actually hanging out with. Take a step back. Think about 5 people who you spend a lot of your time with. Are they benefiting you? Are they tearing you down? That's such a big one.
Yep.
Number 6, you are your most valuable asset. A lot of people think that they have to rely on something or somebody else. When if you just take a step back and look at yourself, you are the one that's going to make the decision to change
Just
your
snuck
life.
that one in.
Yeah. Yep. So that's a huge one as well. 7, talked about this as well. Unless you master money, money will master you. So that's a huge one we talked about, being debt free and making wise decisions with
Not
money.
always the easiest thing to do, but make it a goal.
Yeah, and the emergency fund, the great advice there as well. And I think that's something that we can, all 20-year-olds can benefit from that. Achievement is fleeting. This is one that I was curious about. What did that mean? Was that something where we are always looking for the next thing? We're not satisfied with what we've achieved in life? Is that what that means? I'm not 100% sure. Achievement is fleeting.
Could be, or just that people aren't trying.
Yeah, you give up too easy, quit too easy. Things
Yep.
get tough. You give up on your marriage. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's this isn't working. I'm gonna get a divorce.
Yep.
You don't work at it. You don't achieve those things.
Never quit.
Yeah.
Kind of the other side of it is, I wrestled in junior high, high school, college. Did well, but it's fleeting. I got out of college.
Yeah.
I think back and think about it, but
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's why I was complimenting Dane, how important it is for coaches to instill things besides the physical part of the sports and the winning,
Yep.
and it's so important.
Oh,
as
yeah.
parents too.
Yeah,
Parents should
for
too.
sure. Number 9, there's no such thing as failure. This one to me was interesting because I think failure is such a big part of growing and learning. And you don't have
That's
to.
why there's no such thing.
Oh.
You're not failing. You're
Oh,
growing. From
you're
it.
growing,
You're
okay.
not you're learning from your failures.
From
so
your
don't call it
mistakes and stuff.
failure.
Okay.
so
That's
the failure would be stopping,
Yeah.
quitting.
Yep. Wow.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, Dave.
That's right.
They put that on like every poster in every high school has one of those posters up, so that's funny.
Touch it.
Number 10, it's all about who you know. Your network is your net worth. So we talked about that and about building connections with people, strong connections and relationships that'll benefit you in the
still
future.
know a little, but it is important.
Yeah. It's not what you know, it's who you know. It's not that quote. It's just a little bit different. You determine your own success. We talked about that a lot as well. You can't rely on anybody else. No one is going to be there to pick you up. You need to constantly be grinding and working towards your goals and everything. Choices. Yep. Number 12, practice is not overrated. That's what they have on here. So
Most definitely.
always be working to get better. Yeah.
Practice.
And I'm sure you got some stuff to say about that, Dane, as a coach.
Well, yeah, just in general. I mean, it is like it goes back to the process that I talked about. They talk about that in Chop Wood, Carry Water.
Yeah.
By Joshua Mitch.
I'm going to read that.
It over and over.
Yeah.
You have to keep doing it. If you're going to master something,
Yep.
you have to keep working at it.
And practice it the right way, too.
Yes,
Don't practice it the wrong way.
Yep. Well, it's super hard if you learn the wrong way to then
Yeah.
correct. Yeah.
Making it
Yep.
meaningful.
Yep.
I heard a saying that one of our horse instructors said. She said that practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice does.
Yep.
Oh.
I hear that a lot.
What,
That's a good
what
one.
really is the case, practice makes permanent.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because there's no such thing as perfect, really.
Yeah. Wow. Let's see here. 13. Not everyone is a real friend, and I do remember reading more into this one because you're gonna meet people. You're gonna have these connections, but not everyone is a real friend of yours. You just have to learn that in life. Not everyone.
Not be too vulnerable.
Yeah. Be vulnerable, but don't be too vulnerable. You got to make those strong connections, but realize also that everyone you meet is not going to be there when you need them most.
Right.
So that's a big one on here too. Number 14, you won't live forever, which I think is something that a lot of people overlook. That every day you need to make the most out of that day. Like
Life is terminal.
Yeah. We're all going to die. So.
Given.
The interesting thing is there's a lady that in Jackson today that was found dead in her house.
Really.
No reason that we know of.
Wow.
Had no health, was generally good. What happened? We don't know.
Yep.
Wow.
But life is terminal.
Yeah. Any
Yeah.
day. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard to think about, but tomorrow could be the last day. You got to make the most of every single day.
Yeah.
Crazy things happen.
And with other people, if you feel like you don't want to leave something, let them know how you feel about them.
Oh, for sure,
I'm not
yeah.
saying like a love thing or anything, but like if you have to make amends, if you haven't talked to your parents for a while, just think, well, if I wasn't here tomorrow, would I be happy with how that
Oh yeah. Always tell your loved ones you love
Deep,
them
man.
when you leave, and now we're getting sad again. Number 15, vulnerability is sexy. That's what the article said. So
depends on the individual.
it just we'll jump that one. 16.
But no, that goes back to our point of actually care. Like don't guys. I always say guy because I'm a guy. Guys, be nice to girls. Don't just blow. I mean, if you want to be in a relationship, be in a relationship. If you don't, just don't.
Yeah, and tell people how you feel, and don't try to hide. Because that goes back to the you won't live forever thing. If you never tell someone how you feel about them, or if you never actually let out your true emotions, then it's never going to happen. Life is short, so make those connections and let people know the truth instead of holding things
Playing
in.
games, don't ghost people.
Yeah, exactly.
That's real popular.
This is a big one. I'm glad they put this one in here. Listening is a gift you give to others. A lot of people listen, but how many people are actually listening?
That's right.
Because you can talk to people, but I think a lot of times people are just waiting for their turn to talk.
Yep.
But see, that's where you pick up this, and you're there, and you're talking.
Yep. Not really listening.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting with kids. They will watch their parents when the eyes drop. The kids will start begging for their attention.
Yep.
A study was done not too long ago with a house full of pets, and when they did this study on this particular dog, when the owner would look at their phone, the pet would start whining. As soon as the eyes went up, the pet would be fine.
Yep.
But it's true with kids.
Yeah.
The kid is begging for attention.
Yep.
That's the first thing we talk about in all of our programs, just about our rainbows, is respectful listening.
Yep.
And it's good because the kids haven't heard it many a times, and body language, eyes, listen, don't think about what you're going to say.
Yep.
And to that point, I saw a little comic. It's like the mom sitting on her iPhone next to another mom who's reading a book. The mom reading the book's kids reading a book. The one on the iPhone's kids on the iPhone, and she's looking at the one at the iPhone, looks at the mom and says, "How do you get your kid to read?"
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think there's so much that you can take in if you actually genuinely listen to people and what they're saying.
Yeah.
There's so much you can take in.
It's the most important thing, human connection.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
what makes
Well,
us
and
human,
it's
humanity.
we talked about that a couple episodes ago with technology and how true connections are kind of dying right now. And it's such a time where you can bring that back, and just genuinely listening to people will change your life. And if you actually take things in instead of just being there.
We're in a
Where your
time.
feet are.
Yeah. Yep.
We're in a time where there's more communication and less listening.
Oh, that's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much communication.
We see that at school a lot, and maybe even through churches and stuff, where you think you're communicating in every single avenue, putting it out there for students, parents, community,
Yep.
and then all of a sudden there's people that can't find it, or they didn't
Yeah.
listen, or didn't, so yeah, exactly.
Run across that.
From that standpoint, if we feel like we're communicating really well, and you can always communicate better.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, I wonder if they're truly listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to search out the information too, and
Yes,
take
yeah.
responsibility.
But
and
yes, please.
like-
Yeah.
Don't get me going.
Yeah.
you can go knock on every house. Is
Yeah.
what's expected.
Yep. Number 817 might be, to me, the most important one. Your word is everything. When you tell someone you're going to
Yes.
do something, you better be there.
That was my shower thought today.
You
remember?
will not, there's not one way to lose more people in your life than to tell them you're going to do something and then not show up. That's my biggest, I just cannot stand that. When someone tells me they're going to do something and then they back out last minute, or not even last minute, just like if you tell someone you're going to be there or do something or help them out and then you back out and they're they can't do it or something because of you, like, your word is the most important thing in your entire life. You tell someone you're going to do something. I can't back that one up enough.
No, and we joke about having thoughts in the shower on a couple of the podcasts, and that was one that came to me like as the most important, overlying thing, because we were raised truth. You have nothing but your word and
Yep.
truth. And nowadays that's getting a little tricky too. With I don't want to keep blaming technology, but talk about people not going back and looking, like doing their diligence and looking up things, but. Truth is so important. If we don't have a truth, it's tough to have anything.
Yep.
Like integrity.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
Trust.
trust.
I would preach that one so much
Yep.
to
Good job,
people.
Ethan.
Yeah.
Go for it, preacher.
Number 18, the time is not tomorrow, the time is now. We talked about that, how do things that are going to benefit you right now. Don't wait to keep pushing it off till the next day. Don't say I'm going to do it tomorrow. Just do it right now. Take care of things and your life is going to change. Number 19, you are your own worst enemy. I think so much of the time we look down on ourselves and we think that, I was reading something that's called the spotlight effect, how we think that everyone's constantly watching us on our
Yep.
failures, when 90% of the time no one notices the small things that we...
number one.
Yeah, yep, nobody cares. Yeah, exactly. I think we criticize and critique ourselves so much that sometimes we put ourselves down more than other people
Positive
do.
self-talk. We tell the kids positive self-talk.
Yep.
Good enough.
And there it is. And gosh darn it. Like,
There you go. Can always go back to that one.
they
And
start using that.
number 20 here, we talked on this as well. We touch on a lot of these actually, which is cool.
Nailed
Number
it.
20, volume wins. Do what you love every single day. And we talked about that when we were talking about, was it going to college or finding a job? It was
Everything like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Both.
Yep. Do what you love every day, and like I've heard before, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
That's the greatest job in the world is if when you go to work, you don't know if you're working or playing.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Yep. And so that is the 20 brutal truths all 20-somethings need to hear. And those weren't too brutal. I thought those are all pretty.
Good recap.
Yeah.
Way to put that together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good way to put it all together into one list here. So
We just kind of sugarcoated it, and they kind of
Yeah, for sure. Well, I really appreciate you guys coming on, and we're going to wrap it up here. It has been awesome to talk to you, Steve and Dane and Damon, about this. I think these have all been important things that anyone, not just in their 20s, but anyone looking for the right things.
Every decade of your age.
Yeah, exactly. You can always grow. You can always, like we talked about, you can always learn. And so I really appreciate you guys coming on here and touching on this, and I hope people can take away some of these important things, because I really believe that no matter where you are in your life and how many mistakes you've made, you can change it and you can turn it around.
Absolutely.
And so I think this is such a good first step for people, is just to start by making that next decision, that next right choice tomorrow. And so it's such an important thing. So thank you everyone for watching. Really appreciate it. We'll be back next week. Not sure who we're going to have on as usual, Dane.
Yep.
But it'll be
40th,
40th episode next week. So it's going to be the big Over the Hill episode here.
Cake.
Yeah, bring a cane or something for the Over the Hill episode. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you guys again for being on. It's been a great episode. If you are watching, make sure you comment, share, retweet, subscribe, like, give us all recommendations for things to talk about, or if you have any things that you enjoyed about the episode, we'd love to hear from you. So thank you very much for watching. We'll be back next week. This is the Educator Podcast Show.